We are going to be playing a game for you called The End of the Triumvirate, which is a 2 or 3 player strategy game about Rome. And these 3 guys who are having a civil war in Rome. I don't know anything about Roman history, so I'm not going to be able to talk about that in depth, but Rob will mention it repeatedly during our gameplay footage because he wants you to know how much he knows about Rome. I don't really have much else to say about it. I'm just going to get it set up for you. Just remember, you can't spell triumvirate without try. Okay, so this is the End of the Triumvirate, and this is the setup for the 3-player game. In a second, I'm going to change this angle so that you can see the board a bit better, but I wanted to show you everything that's included in the box, and especially I wanted to get these nice player aids into the shot, because honestly, they're probably some of the highest quality player aids I've seen in a while, so they come on thick tiles, and they lay out all the information you need to know to play the game. So it's pretty nice. It's a static setup, so everything that's on the board is always going to be in this position if you're playing a 3-player game. If you're doing a 2-player game, that's different, and I'll talk about that at the end of the video. Any pieces that aren't going to end up on the board are just kind of like in your personal supply here. And you've got your legions and your civil servants and your gold and your tiles off to the side. There's going to be 3 console tiles, an escape tile, and a compensation tile. So the important things to pay attention to, again, when you're setting up the board, is to put things down exactly in this way. Make sure that your governors are covering up boxes that they're supposed to be covering up, or outside of boxes where they're supposed to be outside of boxes. Make sure that wherever you have a civil servant, because everybody starts with 1 civil servant in a region, to put the governor on top of that civil servant. Make sure to put a cube of each player's color in the 2 competence tracks. Put the Tempus Fugit tile up here on the time track. Everybody's got 2 of these citizens in their slice of the political pie, and there's going to be neutral ones off in that other quarter. The last thing you need to do for setup is you need to take this battle bag here. You're going to put 2 cubes of each player's color into the bag, and that's going to be used whenever you are resolving a battle. The most important piece are these character pieces. These are where all the action is going to be on your turn, because all of your movement is applied to your character tile, and your character can take units with them, but other units can't move on their own, so the character is the most important piece. You've got your governors that are there mostly to mark which regions are under your control, and every turn you're going to move a governor out of a box if it was in a box, or move it back into the box if it wasn't in a box. So there's going to be this, it's important to keep track of where they were, don't bump them into a box during play, because it's important if they're inside or outside of a box, because that's going to dictate whether or not you get resources from a given region. Then you've got legions. Every region starts with 2 legions. Legions can't move on their own. Again, you need to move a character tile through a region and take legions with you if you want to be carrying them with you. And legions are used for fights. You've got these 2 competence tracks in military and politics. Those are going to be both tied to one of the 3 victory conditions, as well as giving you an advantage in taking military or political actions. We're going to talk about the concept of leading right now to get it out of the way. If you're ever at the highest point in the track, you are leading. If there's someone else who is also sharing that highest space on the track with you, they are also leading, as long as someone else is behind you. If all 3 of the cubes are on the same space, then no one is leading in that current situation. But if everyone is up on the 7 space, then everyone is leading, and they'll get the benefits of leading on that track. So that's how the competence track works. For the most part, those benefits are going to be being able to take an action without having to pay a 2-coin, tax for not being leading in that competence. And the other side of it being that you're trying to move up the competence tracks to get a victory. And the Tempus Fugit tile up here is going to be keeping track of the time. Whenever someone completes a turn, the Tempus Fugit tile is going to move 1 slot to the right. And so after 8 turns in a 3-player game, you're going to have an election. You're going to stop play and do the election. And what an election means is you're going to look at who has the most control of the citizens over in the council. And if you have a majority of citizens, then you'll be elected consul, which has some benefits. If you ever get elected consul twice, that's going to end the game and you're going to win, so that's one of the victory conditions. Alternatively, if you have been elected consul once, and then you ever manage to get 6 citizens into your section over there in the council, then you'll just win again. So you don't necessarily have to wait all the way to a second election at that point. So, there's a little area control thing going on over there. Once you've had an election, the rulebook tells you to give a short speech bringing in the new year, and then you will reset the time track and go again. So another 8 turns will happen, and then you'll have another election. So if we're doing an election here, and we say that Caesar has 3 and the other guys have 2, Caesar's going to get elected the consul there. He's going to give a speech, and then you'll get one of these consul tiles, which you read the text on the tile, but basically it's going to immediately give you a civil servant that you get to put down in one of your regions. You give a speech, and then as a consequence of being elected consul, you have to move 3 of your citizens out of your box so that you don't just immediately have an advantage to start the new year. You'll reset the time track, and that will end the election phase. The other thing that could happen when you get to an election is if multiple people are tied for most citizens, you will look at whoever had the least recent turn, they will be elected consul. Because they've managed to hold on to the majority for the longest. Other people had an opportunity to take control of the consul and they didn't. So that's how ties are resolved in that situation. It's just whoever's went the least recently will be elected consul. Turn order for the game is always going to be the same. It's always going to start with Caesar, red, Pompey, blue, and then Crassus, black. There are 3 victory conditions in the End of the Triumvirate, so you're trying to do one of 3 different things. You're trying to get a political victory, which is if you manage to get elected consul twice, or if you get elected once and then have 6 citizens in your quarter, then that'll make you win the game immediately. You want to try to get a competence victory by having full-on competence in both military and politics, so if you get your cubes up to 7 in both tracks, that's going to win the game for you. Or you'll try to get a military victory, which is just conquering 9 provinces. A player's turn is always going to consist of phases that happen in the same order, and these are laid out on the player aids. And the first thing you do is you get supplies. The active player will take a look at where all of their governors are on the board, and they will move them. So if there's a governor in a box, they'll move out of a box. If the governor out of a box, they'll move in a box. And you do that with all your governors on the board. If it's a province with a civil servant, you're not going to move the governor at all because the civil servant does something different. So keep the governor on top of the B tiles. Once you've moved all your governors, in all provinces where the supply box is now empty, you're going to get the thing that is now visible. There are 3 types of regions, and they're always going to give you either 2 gold in a legion, or 2 legions. When a region generates a thing, it doesn't go to you, it goes in that region. So you would sit there until a character moves through that region to pick up the things that are there. So, this one generates a gold and a legion. It sits there like that. However, this one, because the character is here already, if it were Black's turn, he'd just get this 2 gold because his character is there. What the civil servants are doing is they're keeping your governor always outside of the box, which means that that region will produce that thing every turn instead of every other turn. So civil servants are pretty cool. Also, you're going to get some supplies from Rome, and what that means is you get to choose 2 gold, 2 legions, or 1 gold and 1 legion, and you can put those supplies in any province together or separately. That means you could just drop them directly in wherever your character is currently located and immediately get those dollars. But maybe there's a reason why you'd want to put them somewhere else on the board if you wanted to maybe try to entice someone to go to a region to pick up some gold. The amount of gold and legions in the game is limited to the supplies you have available, so if you ever run out of tokens or cubes, you can't place more. Also, there's a limit at the end of your turn where you can't have more than 6 legions in a province. So any excess legions will just be removed back to the supply. Once you're done dealing with the supplies phase, you're going to move on to movement, where your character piece, which is the big square piece, is going to get up to 4 movement points to spend. As I said before, legions can't move on their own, civil servants can't move on their own, but they can move with the character tile. So the character tile is going to move, and movement is going to be here to here would be 1 movement. Crossing borders. You could also use the water for movements. If this guy were taking his legions with him, this would be a movement point, and then 2 movement points to come over here, and then a 3rd movement point to come down here, maybe. So, movement. You can't end your movement on the water, and these 2 regions are considered adjacent, so this arrow is kind of saying, like, this goes right to here. That's what's going on with this to this. Here to here to here is all connected with arrows, so that's saying that those are adjacent, and that's just 1 movement point to get across there. Now, the exception with movement is if you're moving your character piece 1 or 2 sea areas without taking legions along, you get to subtract 1 from the total movement that would have cost. This is a way of getting your character piece across the board really quickly. So, this would be... Normally, you say that's 1, 2, 3. That's actually 2 movement because he didn't take anybody with him. If there ever happens to be gold in the province the character enters, you immediately pick it up. Civil servants can be taken with a character piece, so if this guy decides he's going to take his civil servant into Asia, he does that. And then if he's going to place a civil servant here, he puts it down, immediately put the governor on top of the civil servant. A character can only enter an enemy province if they are taking at least 1 legion along with them, and that's going to cause an attack to happen. You're allowed to make multiple attacks because you have 4 movement points, so you would move in here, you'd resolve this, and then you could, continue on. You could go across the water and try to have an attack over there as well. You're really just limited by the amount of movement that you can make in a given turn. So there are steps you follow when you're resolving an attack. First, you're going to draw weapons out of the weapon bag. Up to 3 cubes are going to be taken out of a bag. That number that you're going to draw is going to be equal to whoever has the lower number of legions in the fight. So in this example, black only has 1 legion, so you'd only draw 1 cube from the bag. Whatever cube color you draw is going to be the victor of that round of fighting. So I drew a blue cube. Blue isn't involved in the fight, so the blue cube would go back in the bag, and that was just all that happened. And then you would move on to the next step. If I had drawn a black cube, then black would have won that step of fighting and removed 1 cube. If it were the other way around and I'd drawn a red cube, then black would have lost their cube because red won that fight. So if you draw a neutral cube in a fight, you're just going to put it back in the bag. If you draw a cube that belongs to either the attacker or the defender, you're going to remove it from the bag and return it to their supply. So it's going to reduce their chances of being victorious in a future battle bag reach-in. If we're doing an example that's the other way around and say that red is taking his 2 legions and attacking this region here, first you'll resolve the battle bag thing. Say we reached in and pulled out 2 blue cubes, so nothing happened there. Then you go to the character protection step, which is if your character piece is in a province that's being attacked, you get to remove 2 of the attacking legions. So, in that case, it would be a pretty poor decision for Red to choose to attack that province because he was gambling on drawing some of his cubes out of the bag in order to get an early victory, because he would have known going into it that if you attack a province with a character tile in it, then you're going to lose 2 of your cubes at that 3rd step. But say that that character tile wasn't in that space and red is attacking there, and we've resolved up to that step. We then move on to the main battle, which is after you've resolved the bag draw and everything, you're going to compare the number of cubes and just remove one from each side until there are no cubes remaining on one side or the other. So again, if this happened, red would lose because if you get to a point where you have no legions remaining as the attacker, you do not win the fight. So he has to have at least one remaining for it to be considered a victory. If, however, he got to the main battle step and there was something like this after the bag draw, then, you go one from red side, one from black side, and then that would be a victory because you'd stop once one side doesn't have any cubes remaining. If your attack fails, so if it were like this, you'd remove your character piece back from where you came. It's a free movement point, and that's it. And if you were carrying any civil servants with you at the time, they would also return with you. If you are successful, then you would replace the governor with your own. Any civil servants that were in that region would now become your civil servants. So that's always a risk you run when you leave a civil servant relatively undefended. Someone might just take it from you. The governor's position, wherever you conquer, is going to remain where it was. So if there wasn't a civil servant here and the governor was out of the box, he would stay out of the box. If he was in the box, he would stay in the box, if you're putting your own on that space. A player that loses a province is going to get this compensation tile, and it gives you the ability to put one weapon of your color into the battle bag. If you also lost a civil servant, you put an additional weapon into the battle bag. If you don't have any cubes to put in the battle bag, then too bad, you don't get that. If you already had the compensation 1 tile from being beaten on previously, you would flip it over and get compensation 2 instead, which means that you get to move up either the political or military competence track by 1 step. And again, if you lost a civil servant in that battle as well, you put 1 weapon of your color into the battle bag. If you are conquered while you're still holding the compensation 2 tile, you just take the compensation 2 effect again. If your character tile was in a region that gets conquered, you have to take the escape tile and you resolve the text that's on the escape tile, which is to immediately move your character piece to another province you own of your choice, but you have to lower your competence in each area that you are currently leading. So again, leading meaning that you're the highest up on the track and you can be tied with someone else and multiple people leading. If you're the highest on the track, then you would lose a step in each track that you are currently leading. If a player's ever in a situation where they only have 1 province left, you can't attack them because, they're already having a hard enough time. After you're done resolving your movement phase and using up all of your movement points if you want to, the rulebook does say you may use up to 4, so I assume you could just choose not to move all 4. You're going to do the action phase. And what action you get to take depends on where your character tile has ended up. There are 3 different colors of provinces, and that's going to dictate what type of action you can take. You can take up to 3 actions. The first one's going to cost 1 gold. The second is going to cost 2 more gold, and the third action will cost 3 more gold. So the most you can take is 3 actions in this phase. If you're taking action in a political province, you get to either move your character up the political competence track by 1, should just be that, or you could persuade citizens in the forum to join your cause. You would either move 1 citizen from the neutral to yours, or you could remove someone else's to the neutral. Those are your 2 options. You do one or the other. If you're not currently leading political competence, then it's going to cost you an additional 2 gold to take that citizen's action. Obviously, it's probably a good early play to try to get at least some competence so that you can do that and not have to pay that 2 gold fee. Or, your action could be pay 1 gold to move up the political competence step, pay 2 more gold to take the moving citizens step to move a citizen into your quarter, and you didn't have to pay that extra 2 gold fee because you are now currently leading in political competence. If you're in a military province, it's going to be pretty similar. You can either move up the military competence track by 1 point for an action, or you can produce weapons by putting 2 weapons of your color into the battle bag. But again, if you are not currently leading in military competence, it's going to cost you an additional 2 gold to take that action. So again, maybe the best thing to do is to use your first action to move up the military competence track, and then use your second action to put cubes in the bag if that's what you're trying to do. In this sort of orange-colored competence province, these are the provinces that are just sort of the middle ground, and you either move up the political competence track or the military competence track. That's all that you can do with your actions in an orange-colored space. Once you've taken your 3 actions, you'll move Tempest Fugit 1 step towards Elegio because your turn has ended. If at this point we reached the Elegio spot, then we would have an election, determine who the consul is, reset the citizens in the council pie accordingly, and if at the end of one player's turn there are more than 6 legions sitting in their province, then they'll want to whittle that down to 6 legions. And that's basically all the things. You just need to continue doing that until someone hits one of the victory conditions. So this is what the setup's going to look like if you're playing a 2-player game, and you're going to make a few changes. You got to play red and blue, and once again, Caesar as red is going to take the first turn. Once again, it's important to get the positions of the governors and the civil servants correct. It's different in the 2-player game. Second change is that a calendar year only lasts 7 turns instead of 8 in a 2-player game. So you see the Tempest Fugit piece is starting on the 7, and once you get to an election, you will reset it back to the 7 again. So there's always 1 fewer turn in a year. You're going to be removing 15 legions, 3 gold, and 2 of the citizens from the council pie. That means that there's going to be fewer of those things in the game, so that it's, I don't know if it's easier to hit the limit of how much you have, but there's fewer of the things. You are going to put 2 of each player's color in the weapons bag, including 2 of the black cubes, because they're still going to be acting as neutral cubes. And then the last thing is that you just don't use these 4 regions during the game. So nobody is allowed to move onto those regions and do anything with them. They're just pretend they're not there. Smaller map. Otherwise, all other play conditions are exactly the same. Those are all the things.
Who goes first?
You do, because Caesar goes first always.
Oh, yeah. You
Caesar
know why?
Always goes first.
You know why?
Because I crossed the Rubicon.
Okay.
Yeah. You know what time it is?
It's time...
It's time for you to do your supply phase.
Supply. Okay,
Yeah,
so...
Everywhere you've got a governor who's in a box, move him out of a box. Everywhere you've got a governor out of a box, move him in a box. But basically, just move every governor except that one, because he's on the civil servant.
Okay. So, I'm red,
Yep.
so... Out of this box.
Yep. And just do that with all things, and then we'll resolve those things next.
Okay.
We'll first move all the guys.
Okay, so... Into the box. Out of the box.
Into the box. Okay. Now you get the things. You get 2 legions in this area.
Okay. Cool.
You get a legion and a coin.
Okay.
That coin goes directly to you because you're standing there.
Sweet.
Nothing happens.
Okay.
You get 2 coins in this region.
Okay. I'm gonna go pick up those bucks.
You get to choose 2 gold, 2 legions, or 1 of each to put anywhere as your Roman supplies. If you just want those $2 right now, you can just send them to this region.
I'm gonna send 1 legion and 1 buck here.
Okay. And now you've got those bucks.
Okay, supplied.
Yep.
Movement.
4 movement points.
I am gonna invade Italy.
Okay.
So I'm gonna take these legions and put them on my character card.
Yeah. You gotta be real careful about your governor got bumped up as civil
Yeah.
servant, so you gotta kind of Alright, well, I got 2 guys. Like that. Okay, first thing that happens. We're only gonna draw 2 cubes out of the bag because I have 2 forces, so it's the lesser of the 2 forces up to 3.
Okay.
1 cube. You lose a cube.
Okay.
Because here, I'll even put it on the camera. Blue. But this cube is now not in the bag anymore, so that happened.
Okay.
And second cube. Blue.
Also blue. Okay. Didn't go well for Caesar.
It's going to go even worse because my character's in that tile, so you lose 2 more automatically.
Oh, rugged.
That's a loss.
Well,
you lose.
I lose.
Yep, so...
Man, crossing the Rubicon failed.
Yeah, well...
What happened?
This is an alternate history, I guess. So you get to move your character piece back to where you came from. And that's it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, I was trying to recreate history, and not so much.
Okay, well... Good news is you still got 3 movement points.
Good.
So...
Good.
Move wherever you will.
I guess I'm gonna leave Gaul since it has been depleted.
I mean, you move over there, grab those 4 guys, and cross over again if you want.
That's true.
You now know I have no cubes in the bag.
I have no cubes, rather.
No, I have no cubes in the bag. Because both blue cubes were drawn out.
Yeah.
So you...
So then I can cross across the water with my 2 movement, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I invade again.
So that was 2, 3, 4.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Coming across from Illis.
So you know that there are only 4 cubes in this bag.
2 of them are going to come out.
2 of them are neutral. So if they are neutral, then nothing happens. So once again, we're drawing 2 because I've still got 2 guys there. 1. Okay, wipe out one of my guys.
Yeah. That's what I wanted.
2. Nothing. Oh, okay, so.
Okay.
Yep.
And then I lose 2 guys.
Yes. And then we just move on to standard battle, which is we both lose 1 cube. Yeah. And then you are victorious. What will happen is I have to take this escape tile because my character's there, and I have to take this compensation 1 tile.
So you put one of your
So you
cubes
take your
back
governor and put him on this civil servant space.
Okay.
Because it's always important to keep the governor in the same location that it was when you took it over.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I get to put my guy wherever I want. I wasn't up on the competence track, so I don't have to lose my leading competence because I haven't done anything yet. But I do get to put one of my cubes back in the bag. Actually, 2 cubes because I lost a civil servant.
Cool.
So I got my cubes back in there. I hold on to this in case I get attacked again. And put my guy somewhere. Okay, I'm going to put him over here.
As Pompey did. Well done.
Okay. That was your movement. So now you have up to 3 actions.
Okay.
It's going to cost you, I think you only have 2 gold, right?
That's true.
So you are in a political area, so you can spend your 1 gold to move up the political track.
I will do that.
All you can do.
Move me up that political track.
You're now leading in the political track.
Dope.
Yeah.
Now I don't have the bucks to do anything else, so that sounds like that's you.
You can't do any more actions. So move us up move the Tempest Fugit down. Okay. I'm going to supply.
Okay.
Alright, so I get 2 legions here.
Cool.
I get a legion and a gold over there.
Nice.
And that's it.
Okay.
Okay. So...
What are you going to do, Gnias?
I'm looking at my... I think I'm just going to take 2 gold from Rome. Come here and take it.
Yeah.
1, 2.
Yeah. That's not surprising.
Coming, Africa.
Yeah.
First cube. Neutral.
Okay.
Back in the bag.
I'm not concerned. We don't want it.
Alright. Second cube. Blue.
Okay.
Great. Okay. No captain there, so we just 1-1.
1-1. You take the province. Swap governors. You take those bucks.
Take these bucks because I'm here now and it's mine.
We don't want the remains of Carthage.
Well, we're going to push it. We're going to see what happens by coming into Africa. 3.
Alright, it was a bluff. I do want what's left of Carthage. Stop evading it.
Well, I think I only have 1 cube in this bag.
I lost a province?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So one of my cubes goes back in?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I probably shouldn't have done this.
Oh, well, I mean, you're doing okay.
Well, now I have no cubes in this bag.
Yeah, but you'll win this fight and you'll take Africa.
Oh.
Okay. Okay.
Back.
Thanks.
Flip your compensation over to Compensation.to.
Okay.
You move up one of the tracks.
Okay.
And also, no, that's it. That's all that happens.
Another one of my cubes doesn't go back in the bag?
No, because you didn't lose a civil servant.
Okay. I'm going to go up military so that I'm dominant in both.
Good. Okay. I have 1 more movement, so I'm just going to move my guy over to Sicily.
Okay.
Protect that place a bit.
All right.
Sicily means I pay 1 gold to move up in military competence. Pay 2 more gold and move up again.
Okay.
And I can't take a 3rd action. Okay, so there you go. Tempest Fusion.
Okay. All right. Well, let's go ahead and do my guys. He moves over.
Doesn't move.
Doesn't move. That's right. He moves over. That's it.
Yeah.
Okay. So
you
I get 3 legions.
2. Oh, I see what you're saying.
And 1 buck here.
And then you just get $2 because
I get $2 because I'm in Rome.
Yeah.
Okay.
And now you get your Roman thing. So you take $2,
$2,
buck and a legion, 2 legions, put them wherever you want.
I'm gonna take 2 legions. A legion. I'm gonna take a legion and a buck.
Okay.
Again.
Movement.
Yeah, I'm gonna move and go.
Are you gonna dare to come into Sicily?
I'm gonna go 1, 2.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Don't forget your limitation of 6 legions in a region.
Yeah.
Turn.
Yeah. What do I want to do? I'm gonna leave.
What would Julius Caesar do?
Caesar would attack Pompey. I don't have that many cubes in that bag, though. I think I only have 1. Yeah. I attack Sicily.
All right. So.
2 cubes are going to come
2
out.
cubes come out of the bag. There are 3 cubes in this bag.
Yeah, I think it's...
1, neutral.
Yeah.
Okay, so you remove 1 cube
Okay.
of mine.
Okay.
And then you remove 2 of your cubes, and then 1 more for each of us to win.
Yeah. Okay.
This. Put your guy on that.
On that.
It's in the bag.
And you are putting your guy wherever you want to be.
Yep. I get knocked down.
Yeah. That's all my movement. I then have bucks.
I thought you had more movement.
1, 2 to get here.
Okay.
And then 3, 4 to go attack
then
you.
I'm going to put my guy over here.
Okay. No, that's totally reasonable.
Okay.
That's all my movement. So I'm doing actions. I'm going to buy 2 actions.
Military competence or producing weapons. You are not currently leading.
Yeah, I'm going to go up military competence, and then I'll produce weapons.
Okay, give me 2 cubes. Tempest Fugit.
Yeah. And that's you.
Yeah. So, off, on, off, on, off, on. I get Legion and a gold.
Mm-hmm.
Legion and a gold. 2 gold goes this here. And that's it. And then I'm gonna take, I guess I get this gold because I moved myself there.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take a Legion and a gold. And we're gonna go 1, pick up this gold.
Okay.
Take all these guys with us.
Yeah.
2, 3,
Mm-hmm.
and we
Take
just
that.
win.
Just win.
Yeah.
That guy is on that, so your guy will be on it.
Okay. 4, we're gonna come in here.
Yeah. Okay.
You got compensation 1 because I took that.
Yep.
Cube in the bag.
Yep.
There we go. 1 cube.
Okay.
Neutral.
Okay. Neutral.
Right. So we each lose 1.
Lose 1.
You get compensation 2, so you go up on one of these tracks.
I'll go up military.
Okay. And then I replace your guy with this. You get compensation for losing a civil servant, which is a cube in the bag.
Yep. Here's that.
These guys just dump them off. They're in this area now anyway.
Okay.
And I get this gold that's sitting here.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that was all my movement. So I think that's 4. So I've got $6 to spend on actions.
Yeah.
I'm in a competence zone, so I'm going to spend $1, $2, $3 to move 3 times on the competence tracks.
Which tracks will you move on?
I don't know. I'm gonna go 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
And Tempest Fugit.
Tempest Fugit. Okay, well, things are not going well for Caesar. 2 legions. Okay. Well,
Africa's looking pretty nice right now. Is this is this comparable to Roman history? Are we doing we're not really protecting our borders very well, but we're like...
oh no, this is fairly accurate
central.
for how the Civil War fought, for the Great Civil War. It was mostly if Pompey came over to Spain to gather his forces, Caesar pursued him. Then Pompey retreated to the east to gather forces, and Caesar pursued him. And then Pompey fled to Egypt and got his head chopped off.
Good thing we can't go to Egypt in a 2-player game.
Yeah, it is fortunate for you. That's why you're winning. I think I'm going to just chase you up through Greece and go 1, 2.
Okay, give me that compensation tile. Cube in the bag.
Three.
I'm going to go up.
Oh, I want to leave. I guess I'm going to leave.
Go up the military track.
1 legion behind. 1 legion behind. And 4. I'll go ahead and take this province too.
And go up the military track again.
Okay.
You can take one action.
Oh, I didn't take my
Your
bonus from
Rome bonus.
Yeah, I'll have just taken $2 so that I can take actions now.
Okay, you can take 2 actions. Or you could take the one action.
If I took legions, can I put them in a place, not with me?
Yes, it's
I'm gonna take legions.
If you took like a legion and a gold, or two, you put them across anywhere you want. You don't even have to go to the same place if you took 2 legions.
I'll go ahead and take a legion and a legion.
Okay.
Just to kind of defend my situation.
Do you want to go 1 up the military track?
Yes, I'll go ahead and do that.
Okay.
Okay, that's
Tempest Fugit.
Yep.
While I'm looking at this, feel free to talk about whatever you want.
Oh, well, so the end of the first triumvirate is about this rule of 3 men that happened here at the end of the Roman Republic, where Gaius Pompeius Caesar, Gaius Julius Caesar, Gnaeus Pompeius Magnus, and Crassus, whose first name I always forget.
Marcus.
Yeah, Marcus Crassus. Struggled over who was going to rule Rome, and real quick, Pompey and Caesar pushed Crassus out, and he died fighting the Parthians. That's what it was, the Parthians. And then for the most part, yeah, this has followed the way that campaign went, which is amusing to me.
Okay, well, we're going back to Italy.
Okay. That seems reasonable.
We're going to take half our forces with us to Italy.
Okay.
So we're just 3 to 1.
3 to 1. All right.
Okay, so 1 cube out of the bag.
Okay.
I lose a guy.
Okay. And then we each lose a guy.
Yep. Italy.
You get these $2 that I regretted not having.
Leave this guy in Italy.
Okay.
To come down here and grab these $2.
Sure.
$3 to come over here and grab this
another
buck.
Yeah.
and take these 3 guys and come up here.
Okay.
So 1 cube.
Yep. Come on, red cube.
I think you have 1 more cube in there, yeah.
Should have a couple cubes.
Oh.
Okay. That is your governor.
You should have... Sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Redo.
You're right.
Give me a cube.
Here.
You had compensation 1.
Yep. It's easy
And
to
you
forget.
lost a guy, so put another cube in there. Shoot. This is going to be bad. Okay.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay. So that's mine.
Yeah.
Okay. Out. You take that.
You get to go compensation 2 and go up on one of the tracks.
I'll go up the military track.
Okay. There you are.
I'm red. I know.
Okay. That was all my movement. I
Actions.
ended up in a military place again.
And you have lots of bucks.
1. 2 to throw some cubes in there. 3 more to put 2 more cubes in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Alright, Tempest Fugits.
Tempest Fugit.
Cover. That's it.
2 legions.
Yep. A legion and a buck. Oh, Sicily. 2 more legions there. Cool.
Okay.
Okay.
Rome.
Yeah.
I already don't remember if I took my Roman supplies last turn. But...
I don't feel like I did the turn before, so I think it's okay.
Alright.
Alright. I'll take 2 bucks this time.
The turn before you did, and you spread them out. Like, you put the troops out to defend yourself.
Yeah, last turn. But the turn before that, I'm not sure that I did.
Yeah.
Do I want 2 bucks? I'm going to take a buck in the Legion. I'll leave 1 Legion behind. Two into Italy.
Okay.
So we'll draw 1 cube out. Do I still have this?
Right now you do.
Okay. Oh.
Yes, we did it right.
Okay, I just... Yeah. Sorry.
You went up the track.
Yeah, just took me a second to remember that.
1 cube!
All the steps. Since it is easy to forget those.
Oh! You lose a guy, and then we both
lose a guy. Yeah. Okay, and then you put a cube in.
I put a cube in.
I
put 2 cubes in.
Yeah. Take this.
Oh, sorry. I might have just, I wasn't paying attention. Okay.
And then I spend a buck to go up the political track.
Okay, that's all your movement?
I think I'm only going to use those 2 this time.
All right.
I guess I can come across this as a political place too. So I'll leave 2 legions here and come here.
Okay.
And take Africa.
Then my compensation 2 is to go up the political track.
Yeah. Okay. Never mind. That was dumb. Never mind. I'm dumb.
But you did take that. You took Africa again.
Yeah.
All right. We Tempest Fugit. It's an Allegio.
Okay.
I win the tie because I did not. You had the most recent turn, and we both had the same number there, so I'm elected consul.
Okay.
I get a civil servant.
Man, I should have just stayed in Italy. Just annoying.
Should Caesar have just stayed in Italy?
Obviously.
I think I should be on this civil servant there. Put him there. Africa. My citizens abandon me. I make a speech. It's been a hard year, but I think we're well on the way to unifying Rome under good and proper leadership. There we go. All right.
No one applauds you.
They left. The two guys who are on my side just walked out. Okay. All right. Legion and a gold.
Yeah.
2 legions.
A legion and a gold.
Legion and a gold.
And a legion and a gold.
Where am I? Oh, okay, I'm up there. Whew. Okay. I'll take $2 from Rome. I think I don't want your dude down there in Africa, but I'm gonna take 3 guys and go 1 over here. Get that gold. Take another 2 guys. So we're at 5, and we're gonna come over here.
Okay.
2. 1 cube.
Yeah.
Okay. You get a cube in the bag. Well, 3. We're gonna leave 2 guys and bring 3 over here into Macedonia. Okay, 1 cube. Okay. Get this gold.
I'll go up the military track.
We are now both leading in military because once you're a 7, you are leading. That was 3, right?
Yep.
Let's see what happens.
Okay.
Let's see.
Alright.
And you're gonna go up political track. Okay. And then I ended up in a political zone, so $1 to go up the political track, $2 to go up the political track again.
Yeah.
That's all I can do. Tempest Fugit.
Okay. Yeah. So is this just 0 if I move across? Oh, it's just 1 if I move across there.
Yep.
So 1. I'll take $2 from Rome. take that legion, that's 1, 2, 3. Yeah, okay, so I'll take this legion. So that was 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay. Did you mean to leave this guy behind?
No, I did not.
Yeah, okay. All right, we draw 3 cubes from the bag.
Yep.
Blindly. 1, 2, 3. Okay. So you lose 1, I lose 2.
Okay.
And then just 1.
Okay.
Okay. I get 2 cubes in the bag for compensation.
I go up the military track 3 times. 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
Or the political track, sorry.
Yep. As long as you had $6 to do it.
I did. Did
Caesar,
I win?
You did.
Yeah! Good job, Caesar.
Caesar edged it out by coming down and, I guess...
Sheer competence.
Yeah, people are very impressed with his political and military competence in Africa.
He said, you know what? I'm going to keep Carthage in this republic. And I retook Carthage. And the people saw that I was a man of my word. And that Pompey was a low-down, dirty snake.
I mean, I guess, but, like... It looks like Pompey has a lot of
Pompey has a lot of military men right now.
So
I'm definitely about to lose this military campaign.
It does seem like next turn Pompey would sweep back through Italy. And,
it does seem like, yes, I'm about to lose literally everything except for Carthage.
Yeah.
And lose the game. But
it does not matter. The arbitrary win condition has been met.
Yes. Oh, good job, Caesar. Das End des Triumvirates.
Yeah.
How did you feel about the end of the Triumvirate?
So I suspect you're going to have more to say about this than I am, because for me this is like a pretty
generic
abstract
strategy.
It was a fast strategy game.
Mm-hmm.
And what I can talk about with that, and with respect to sort of the components being just kind of like wooden cubes and discs and squares, it does really seem like it's just kind of, well, we're just moving cubes around, and my cubes and your cubes are facing off, and now you have no cubes, and now I move over here and take some cubes, and it does really seem like thematically disconnected for me, because like I don't have any like real grasp of what's going on there historically. So,
but you read the 2-page summary of the events.
Actually didn't even.
Oh, you missed all the context.
Yeah, I didn't really feel like it mattered for my purposes of figuring out how to teach the game. So, how do you feel this game did in terms of trying to replicate some historical events, or perhaps give you like an alternate history? Because like obviously historically someone won, but like someone else could win in a game. So
for sure, our play at least was like not wildly disparate from the way that Roman history actually played out there, of the way that like you were forced to move to your places of power to go get legions again so that you could stage new attacks. So I definitely think there's some well-designed like mechanics to fit that theme, to make it feel, to force you mechanically to kind of play out the way that those battles actually played out to some extent, in retreating to other provinces to gain new troops. And then also having the political struggle part of it is kind of an interesting like second layer to it to me, I guess. That it's trying to replicate that struggle for control of the Senate. I feel like it doesn't do that badly. As like abstract strategy games usually go, I generally felt like this was abstract enough to bring those events to the table and make it play quickly, rather than, it being like a miniatures combat game that would take forever and be miserable. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I feel like, this was a really compact package for playing a strategy combat game. Mm-hmm. We were talking before it about how this is overwhelmingly recommended to be played with 3 people, so that you have Crassus involved too.
Yeah, which I felt like pointing that out, like, very specifically. I don't feel like our review of how I feel of the game overall should, like, really be... I don't think anybody should really take it into consideration, because, like, we did not play it with 3 people.
Unless you're going to only play it with 2 people. Like, then this would be an ideal video for you to watch, I guess. Yeah, like, this gives you a sense of what it looks like when you play with 2 people.
Yeah. It seems like my feeling about it best after reading the rules was it really does seem like, to get the full weight of dealing with both military and political, that you would need a third person involved in the mix, because if someone is going up one, then you can go after the other.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And basically in our gameplay, we just ignored the political thing entirely, and it's just, I won because your turn had happened more recently. Neither of us ever put people in...
Yeah, into politics.
Yeah, so we ignored it, and we just military conquest over each other.
Well, that's because Caesar and Pompey were the generals, and Crassus was the politician.
Okay.
So, we
were just role-playing.
Yeah, we were just role-playing. And Crassus was role-playing, too, because he died, so...
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, like, the game is, at least with a 2-player, in the context of a 2-player game, it's fast. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's actually going to be that much longer with 3 players.
No. As long as they weren't, like, people who were going to take forever on a turn. Like, we generally move pretty quickly on our turns. But, like, there were a few places where we kind of sat for a minute or so and looked at the board and then said, okay, this is the action I'm going to take.
Mostly the thing I considered the most when looking at what things I could do, it's like, okay, well, I'm going to be conquering land, and that's all I was doing the whole time, is I'm going to conquer some land. Mm-hmm. Where do I want to end up? Like, what regions do I want to conquer that are going to give me resources the next time it's my turn? Mm-hmm. And I kind of ignored the things that were not going to give me resources because the guy was going to move into the box.
Agreed. Yeah, I noticed that too.
So I was just like, all right, I don't even care about that place because, like, it's just going to be worthless to me if I take it now. Mm-hmm. So I think that really siphons down your choices to being like, well, this is the only thing that makes sense to do.
Sure.
We can talk about the 3 different victory conditions and how that sort of gives you options for what you're doing. Mm-hmm. First of all, I guess I like that it's on a timer, that the game just will end sooner or later. It's going to keep going down after every single turn, so it cannot possibly, like, stretch on forever.
Yeah, it can only... Like in a 3-player game, you could only go through the track 4 times before somebody would be elected a second time.
Example, like, what if this were Risk, and it's like the victory condition is you have to just conquer
everything. Yeah.
Like, what if, Risk was like that, but it also had every single turn it was going down.
Some kind of timer was happening, yeah.
Like, the game is going to be significantly reduced in time, and I think that's a good thing for this kind of game. On the other hand, I don't feel like I was outwitted in any way. I don't feel like I made any real poor choices.
I definitely think we were also talking about that. You were definitely, like, winning that war. Like, I had lost. And just happened to be able to grab the $2 I needed to, go up the political track and win the game.
So, I mean, it's like, it's never a good thing when you feel like you just lost just because of whatever.
Yeah, like, a stupid victory condition.
Something happened. I don't really care. I'm not, like, mad about it because, like, I also don't feel like... I felt like the choices I was making throughout were kind of generally obvious, and I didn't feel like I was being super strategic and making perfect choices. Mm-hmm. So I don't really feel like I got outmaneuvered or undermaneuvered, like whatever. I think it's just kind of someone will win, and I don't know if I assume with 3 people that's more balanced, but it's, you know, if I had to sit there and like consider the 3 different victory conditions, I certainly kind of like assumed going into it that the 2-player one, like the military, was going to be harder. Well, it was going to be easier to do because you don't have to. There's fewer regions in play, but the number doesn't go down.
Mm-hmm. And you don't have a second person attacking your flank every time you bring your forces to bear on somebody else.
Yeah. So, I mean, I would assume that's the biggest reason why you wouldn't recommend it with 2 players, because like the political thing is not as important, seemingly.
I mean, I think that
if you invested your time building up the political things, then
the other person
would
would just conquer you.
Down.
Yeah. I think that if one player goes into the military strategy, that you have to like defend yourself, and it's pretty difficult to be doing the political thing and trying to build your forces. I suppose you could have focused on like just putting a lot of legions in each place to hold your provinces on the map while you were building up political power instead.
Right, which was really... I only did that, like, my last turn, as I finally was like, we're going to leave 2 guys here, 2 guys here, 2 guys here. Which, again, at the board state at the end of the game, it looked like pretty much everything I had that you did not take was pretty well defended. In some sense that, like, it would have been difficult to sweep through anything.
Yeah, I wasn't going to make a comeback from Carthage, I don't think.
So I don't know if the better decision would have been to do that earlier, but I don't really feel like I don't know. I felt fine about my choices throughout.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. How do you feel about, how combat is resolved?
I was going to ask you that too. I think that it has like a neat kind of push your luck mechanic to it of having to be aware of like how many cubes you currently have in the bag versus how many cubes your opponent has, and if you take, if you're drawing X number of cubes from the bag, how likely are you to lose that fight? Mm-hmm. I think that's kind of neat.
Do you feel like it throws off the strategic value of the game because like that's an element of luck that...
We've talked about this before. I think you have to have an element of luck in like combat games. I don't think that like a pure this unit defeats X of this unit is ever like a good choice in a game, because it then just becomes math. Mm-hmm. Where if you have luck involved, then you could bring in all of the legions and still lose. Like, it could happen. I think that's more interesting to me than a game where those numbers are just fixed. I like the way that I really like the push your luck part of it. That it's forcing you to pick how far you're going to go in a single turn. Because there were like a couple of turns where we both kind of overextended ourselves and reached further than we probably should have against what the draw of the bag was. And in a couple of those times, like, you pulled out a cube that was yours and you were like, oh yeah, that was a good, gamble on this fight. I think that that's a good feeling in a strategy game to have that. As opposed to doing it with, like, dice, I vastly prefer something like how many cubes are in a bag, because that's something that's controllable rather than, hey, you rolled a 6, good job.
Yeah.
I think that the balance of probability in the cubes is a lot more interesting.
Okay. I don't know what else to talk about. Presentation, how do you feel about artwork?
I really liked the board. I like the map that they chose. I think that you talked about in your instructional part how nice the player aids and stuff are.
They're perhaps like the nicest.
They're really thick.
It's been a while since I've seen one that was that nice. Like, we've got modern games coming out now that are way worse than
because that's just board thickness.
Yeah.
Like, you would never expect that. You would expect those to just be player cards, like normal thickness, maybe even just crappy cards.
Yeah.
Maybe like your individual player pieces would be thicker card stock, but nothing like that.
Yeah.
Overall, I really like the presentation. I think that the cubes for legions is, I mean, it's simplistic and abstract, but it's also, easy. I like that. At first, I didn't think I was going to like that they were using like neutral colored legions on the board, but whatever.
Yeah.
I think it would have been, maybe it would be a little clearer, especially in a 3-player game. I could imagine it being easy for the board to get bumped and have...
Yeah, that's a problem with the way it's laid out with the governors. It's pretty simple. It's not that hard to knock the governor out of the box or around where he shouldn't be, and then you go, oh,
or just
there was this guy.
Or not move one on a turn. There are a couple of times where I'm not positive that we moved at least one of our governors. I don't know. It's a fiddly part of the mechanics of the game that I think works pretty well, but it's easy to make a mistake about. So it would be nice
It'd be nice if there was like a little raised bit around every box, and you put the guy.
That'd be like the ideal, right?
And he can't get knocked out. And
dual layer boards are pretty sweet when you get those. Yeah. I think it would be, it would be slightly more ideal for you to have legions that were your color on the board, just so that was a little easier for places where the board maybe got bumped, or you were invading and trying to move your pieces into a place. But it's not like a deal breaker for me that they chose a bunch of neutral colored pieces and then just doing the draw out of the bag.
Yeah. My biggest complaint about the pieces, I would say that it would feel a little less abstract if the character pieces were actual anything. If they were like a standee, if they were...
I agree with that.
Obviously, like if you had like a little bust of Caesar, that'd be pretty cool.
For sure.
But the biggest problem with it, other than that being like a thematic disconnect, is that they're too large for Sicily and Italy to like sit in a place that makes any sense. And while you're kind of using that to your advantage by putting the cubes on top of them, be like, okay, now I'm moving all these guys together, like that's not really what you're supposed to do, because like the cubes just fall off of the piece and get all over the place. And
well, they need a little raised edge on them too, so that you can just fit your pieces in there nice and smoothly.
Yeah. So, I think like it'd be a real easy fix if someone wanted to make their game like a little bit more thematically interesting, would be to replace the large squares with anything that was a picture
just
of some
little
guy
Roman
or
miniatures or something.
Yeah, as long as you get 3 different ones. Simple.
Or 3 of the same one and just paint them different colors.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. It would be a nice upgrade to have a miniature instead of the block.
What I will say about this game and its presentation, it came out in 2005. And we've had this game for years and never played it until now because we could not convince people to play it because it just looks dry.
Sure.
It sounds dry, and it does not look generally appealing. I'm going to say, as someone who doesn't like care too much about Roman things, a lot of Roman games, like that theme is just like naturally dry for some reason. Like it's a lot of beige and brown, and
yeah, I agree with that.
I don't exactly know why that is, but that's just kind of the way it is mostly. So I think that's a problem with the game, is that that tied in with the fact that it is specifically 2 or 3 players, it makes it difficult to be like, we're going to do this game because, like, look at all the other games you could be playing instead that look more exciting than this. It's real hard for me to, like, try to talk this game up and make it sound exciting because it's going to be, at its core, just a strategy game with cubes and things that are moving around.
Yeah. So do you think that would change if, instead of cubes, they were, like, little Roman legion pieces and... like a Caesar bust and a Pompey bust and a Crassus bust.
I think part of the problem is actually just like the artwork. Like you like the artwork and that's fine, and I don't dislike the artwork. It looks okay once it's set up and you're playing the game. But like if you pull this off the shelf, it's just a brown box.
For sure.
And it doesn't, the picture of what's happening on the cover is not anything.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'd agree. The box design is not great. I don't like the art on the box at all.
It doesn't necessarily sound all that exciting, and I think that's a failing in marketing of the game.
Yeah.
And possibly why it hasn't, it got printed once in 2005, 2006, and that's it. That's sort of ties into where I feel about the game, is that, like, we're trading this away.
Sure.
And I don't really feel bad about it because I don't know how often we would play this.
Yeah.
It's not... I don't think... We both don't think it's bad.
No,
like,
I think
as
it's a decent game.
As a two-player game, I didn't, have any problems with it. But I also don't feel like it feels like it doesn't really give you... It feels like for this theme, you'd want something that's slightly more strategic or gives you more to wrap your brain around.
Okay.
And I kind of just, did things kind of spur of the moment. I was like, I'm going to go over here because I need gold, and go there and get these things and move. And it moves fast, and that's good. And that's the kind of game I would want to play, is something that's not going to take 3 hours.
Yeah.
But on the same side, it feels like it's kind of just trivial.
Sure.
And... we could set it up and play it again. We could switch sides, and I feel like the exact same thing would happen. It's just kind of going to come down to who drew cubes out of a bag when, and,
That's why you got to play with 3 players.
Yeah, but, also there are probably, a lot of more strategically enriching games out there that you could play with 3 people.
Sure.
That makes it kind of be like, well, I don't know that I would recommend this game. So, I mean, what I would say at the end of the day is, I think if you just already have this game, or, are considering it, that's a big consideration, is the fact that you just, it's... Any game that is 2 or 3 player specific is going to have that going against it.
Sure.
And I didn't stop to, think about other 2 or 3 player specific games that are out there to compare to this. 2 player games, if you go deeper down into the strategic well, you talk about things like War of the Ring or whatever, and that's a much more strategic game, but it's also going to take 3 times as long to play.
Yeah.
Roman themed games, I don't know that I've ever played a Roman themed game that I liked.
I think I've only been, neutral about most of them.
Yeah. So in that context, I guess it's one of the better Roman-themed games I've played. Mm-hmm. And if you are really interested in that theme, then it's a fairly light and fast version.
Yeah.
Of... It's really hard, because I thought it was going to be kind of like a war game, but it really isn't. Mm-hmm. It's not...
It's extremely light, yeah.
Yeah. The closest thing I could compare it to would be 1812.
Yeah.
Something like that is, barely on the spectrum of being a war game, but is also accessible. Mm-hmm. But with 1812, you can play with up to 5 people.
It's true. And 1812 has just much more, attractive... not even I guess the art, I guess just presentation in general is more attractive. It's more,
right.
It's more often when I show somebody 1812, they're like, oh, I want to play this. This looks interesting to me.
Right.
And then I talk about you drop the dice in the bag and then draw those out and blah, blah, blah. And people are like, oh yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
This has a lot of the same elements to it, but we've never had people be excited about it.
We've never had people want to play it. That's why we did a 2-player game, because nobody wanted to come play this game with us.
Yeah.
And also, this game is 13 years old now. It shows its age, and I think it holds up well for being that old. But at the same time, 1812 is 10 years newer than it, and it looks like a modern, much more modern game. Mm-hmm. But it's not about Rome. It's about...
That's true. This just needs a facelift. It needs to be remade as 49 BC.
They've been doing that. They've been making, they made one about the Vikings and stuff. So, they could branch out and keep using that system on other historical things, and we'd probably buy it because we like 1812 a lot.
Yeah. So what are you going to give this game? Unless you have, do you have anything else you want to say about it?
I don't really have anything else I want to say about it.
I didn't think so. What are you going to give it?
I honestly think at the end of the day, I'd give it.
And are you giving this just as a this is the two-player game?
I hesitate to even give it a rating because like our rating really shouldn't matter because like everyone, like 90% of the people say play this with 3 players only. Don't ever play it with 2. As a 2-player game, and as I guess what I would expect if it was a 3-player game, because we're not keeping it just to have it as a 3-player game.
Yeah,
5.5.
Okay.
Like I think it's above average, but I also don't think it didn't really feel meaty enough for me to feel like it would be all that fulfilling if I chose to sit down and play the game. Sure. So
I'm right in there too because I was looking at I was trying to decide if I was going to go as high as 6. Or if I was going to be in 5.75. Mm-hmm. So, I feel comfortable being at 6, and then we average out at 5.75. That's fine.
Yeah, I don't think it's a bad game.
No, I think it's decent. I think that the 3-player game is probably a lot more interesting because whoever's playing Crassus, if Pompey and Caesar both do more or less what we did and go into just slug it out mode in the West. I think Crassus would just start building political power and come in and hit them where they're weak. I think that the 3rd player would balance it out a lot. Make it, pull you over into that second game of the political track a lot more. Mm-hmm. Where the 2-player game definitely bogs down in. It's just a slug it out match.
Yeah.
So 5.75.
But also, I can't say it enough.
Play the 3-player game.
We did not play a 3-player game, so our opinion really doesn't matter that much. You know,
definitely.
So there you have it. This is also the only game by these designers.
Interesting.
So they didn't make anything else. It's just kind of like this weird game that came and went.
It's a really solid design for somebody who's only made this one game. You see a lot of times you see somebody's first game be nowhere near as good as that was.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, they felt like they hit it out of the park,
and that was it. Never gonna match up to that again.
Right. Do you want to close us out with any other Roman facts that you think are really that everyone needs to know?
Oh man, if you want to know about the history of this thing, the history that's in the manual for it is actually really good.
The 2-page history?
Yeah. I started flipping through that and going down through the paragraphs. I was like, oh man, they talk about the Gracchi brothers, and they're talking about the political disputes in Rome, and the divisions, what those groups were called and whatnot. I was pretty surprised. There's a lot of really good history there.
So you're saying if I had read that 2-page history, my rating would have gone out?
Yeah, that's what I was telling you. That you should have read that.
Well,
then you'd have all the historical context.
It's too late now. Triumvirate ended.
Oh no! It's okay. There's going to be a second triumvirate. This time with Octavian.
Triumvirate 2. Electric Boogaloo.